Hi, I'm singer-songwriter Lady Redneck, and you are watching the Fantasy Fundamentals Podcast.
The NFL Combine's going on right now. This video, we're going to go over some of these rookies, familiarize yourself with who they are and what they stand for. Briefly going to go over the fantasy relevant prospects. And there's some hot takes in here. Let's start off right away with the quarterbacks. Number one quarterback, CJ Stroud. I think this is just a no-brainer. There's a lot of moving parts here. Everybody's got a different style that they prefer, all that jazz. For me, I don't like the Russell Wilson type, the Lamar Jackson type. I'm not a fan of those players. And just as a caveat, Lamar Jackson is not a good passing quarterback. I know he can throw the ball down the field like a Tim Tebow. That doesn't mean he's reading a defense. It doesn't mean he's accurate. It means he has put 9 people in the box and there's 2 guys trying to cover 4 guys. Someone's going to be wide open down the field, and he sometimes sees that person and could get him the ball, right? Doesn't mean he's not an explosive player. Doesn't mean he's not a good quarterback. Just not the traditional type that I prefer. I prefer that. That's why CJ Stroud is number one. I think I didn't like him. I didn't like him up until I reviewed the film in the last, because I put about 92 hours into this. I reviewed the film and I actually fell in love with this guy. I don't like Ohio State quarterbacks. I don't even like Ohio State, right? So CJ Stroud really surprised me because everything that I've seen, it was very Favre-like. And every time it was just bailed out by this over-excused talent that he has around him, right? His wide receiver is so much better than the corner that he doesn't even have to try. Scratch that. His 5th string wide receiver is so much better than any corner he's seen in college. The talent at that position is just tremendous. However, going from 2021 to 2022, he threw the ball 18% less. His rating went down because of this. His completion percentage actually went down. Why? Because he now knows what he didn't know. Right? When you start to drive, you're like, man, I'm amazing. I'm an amazing driver. It's not until you realize, I got to do this and then that. And then the more you start to learn, the more you start to realize you don't really know much about driving, right? You're not that good at driving. Now you have respect for the NASCAR people who are doing things, right? I think that's kind of what happened with CJ Stroud. He had kind of a Favre 2021 season, and he just got bailed out. And he didn't even understand how lucky he actually got most of the time. I think when you go through the film, you start to see a more refined, brilliant play call. He's pretty good at dissecting the defense pre-snap, but he's not confident enough to pull the trigger because he didn't have to be. In the NFL, he's gonna have to predict things better. Outside of that, I think he's the most NFL ready right now. By the way, if you are watching this, all this data and all this is well descripted, detailed on the website, thedud.com. Just open up the article that is 2023 draft class. So moving on. I'll compare him real quick. I'm going to compare these players, and I'll tell you where about the draft I think their talent is. It doesn't mean that's where they're going, right? And for the most part, you can argue that they're not even going to be in the same position. Some people want this type of player, and they're going to reach for him. But CJ Stroud, I think he's a top 3 talent in the NFL draft. I think he's a Dak Prescott with a better deep ball, but less zip. Dak's got better zip. He thrives on timing routes and just quick decisions. But like I said, in the NFL, he's going to have to be more precise. Number 2 is your Bryce Young. I have Bryce Young here. He's a very talented player. He's got issues that I think are going to matter in the NFL that haven't mattered too much thus far. He carries the ball really low. And when you run around, you carry really low, you have an elongated motion. Now, that motion makes your release super long. Okay. Play starts, he drops back, he starts to throw, and then you go to the bathroom, you get a sandwich, you come back, and it's just leaving his hand. Like, it's too long. Okay, you can't do that. And if you watch Russell Wilson, it's a very quick, so he's got to fix that. Because when you're a scrambling quarterback, look at the Bears. Everybody's like, oh man, he's great. Yeah, he is. He's also sacked 55 times. And it's not the line's fault, right? It's just the style of play. He's going to break out huge runs. He's also going to get sacked blindside. It happens. If your ball is too low down on your hip, that's where you fumble. You get strip sacked, especially when they come over the top behind you. So I think he's got to really do that. He has all the attributes, the accolades of an athletic, today's NFL Lamar Jackson type quarterback. I think he's a pretty refined quarterback. He's just 5'11". He's 180 pounds. He's going to be like Russell Wilson, but he's going to be less accurate. Russell Wilson's very, very accurate. It's hard to diagnose what Bryce Young's going to be because I think it is entirely the scheme. Just like you saw with Russell Wilson. If he's on the Seahawks under Pete Carroll, he looks good. He looks good. You go to the Broncos. I would argue that he had better wide receivers in the Broncos. I would argue he had a better offensive line with the Broncos, and he was atrocious. A lot of that has to do with scheme, more so than him diagnosing the defense and doing this, that, and the other. I think Bryce Young kind of fits that mold. It depends on where he goes. He could very well look like Zach Wilson if the Jets draft him, because the Jets don't draft the superstar. They draft a guy who could be a backup that they pay too much. Bryce Young needs to go to a team like the Niners, somebody who's gonna have that system and the ability to make him. So that's why he's 2. There's risk involved, right? He's got to have a fit. I think CJ Stroud is safe, just safe. His ceiling's not as high. Bryce Young's ceiling's way higher. Number 3, Will Levis. I love Will Levis. First round talent. He's not top 3 like the other 2. Right. But he's a first round talent. I think he's top. I think he's top 5. I think someone's going to get probably the steal of the draft at this position because I think there's so much on him. He's got great size, great arm talent, quick release. He's strong. He's your old school Peyton Manning, 230 pounds. And he's light on his feet. He's basically Josh Allen in a nutshell coming out of college. With that being said, Josh Allen did amazing things. He fixed his release. He fixed his footwork. He did a tremendous turnaround from college to the NFL. That almost never happens, especially in the speed in which Josh Allen did it. So when you say things, that's Josh Allen, yeah, the likelihood of him repeating that is silly. However, I think eventually he could get there. His accuracy and decision making needs to be cleaned up a little bit. Good coaching will fix that. A lot of that has to do with footwork. A lot of that has to do with things of that nature. He's very similar in that regard. That's why he's the 3rd. I think he can become that. And I don't think the transition is that much. So I would put him, if I was an NFL team drafting and I had a quarterback and I wanted one to develop, I would take Levis. If I was like the New York Jets and I needed a guy now, I would probably take one of the other 2, right? Will Levis could very well be at the talent level of like Aaron Rodgers. He just needs to sit there and learn. If you put him in too early, I think he could still get there, but you do run the risk of just destroying his confidence, ruining his career. Moving on to number 4. I think number 4 is a first round talent, low end. Could be in the second round, probably will be in the second round. But coming out. He's 6'6", 230 pounds. Massive of a man. Reminds me of Ben Roethlisberger. But a better comparison is Mac Jones. He could use some touch, but he's very accurate. Very accurate. At all levels. Medium, long, very accurate. He is inconsistent. Mainly, that's his feet. Feet is very hard to fix and easy. It's just repetition. It's getting with a coach and just you doing your feet over and over until it becomes muscle memory. And, until that's addressed, he's going to be a little inconsistent. He's got to develop good habits. Although he could run a West Coast offense right now. Your 49ers, your New York Jets, that type of offense, he could do that right now. Outside of that, he can't, he shouldn't start. This is not a starting quarterback. He's not pro ready. He could run that system if you needed him to. I think he's got higher potential than a Mac Jones, but I think that's what he kind of is. He's a game manager type player. He's got he's got a floor, but I think he needs time to develop. But the potential is there. His potential is there. Number 5, I have Hooker. That's right. I took Hooker. Everyone's freaking out because they love the Florida kid. I like the Florida kid. We'll get to the Florida kid. All right. But right now we have Hendon Hooker in Tennessee. He's a second-round talent. 6'4", 208 pounds. He throws a tight spiral. Really good touch. He understands touch, right? One of the biggest gripes I had with Michael Vick is he just threw the ball too damn hard, right? I think Michael Vick in his career could have been a great quarterback. Way better than what he ever accomplished if he learned how to put touch on the football. Hooker's got that down packed. Excellent anticipation. Excellent. He's a natural born leader. He's the guy you want as a quarterback. At 25 years old on draft day, he's a bit older than everybody else. He had an ACL tear. It was on November 19th and is somewhat limited to evaluate most of this process. The system implemented in Tennessee doesn't translate to the NFL at all. Like it's not even close to being a pro style offense. He's a smart kid. It's going to be hard for him to transition. He will need to learn. This is not a guy that's going to come in and start right away. But if I had to compare him to somebody, it'd be a Sam Bradford. Okay, let's get to the Florida kid. The Florida kid is a second-round talent and probably the biggest question mark, which is why he's polarizing. Some people have him being one of the greatest. Some people say he's not that good. His completion percentage, his yards, his rating, his numbers are mediocre at best in Florida. I've tried to figure this guy out and try to articulate the best way to explain my view on this kid. And I'm going to do it like this. And this is kind of a cop-out, so I apologize. He's most likely going to go to a team that is so worried about his upside that he becomes a Jamarcus Russell. Or a poor man's Will Levis, right? There's significant concerns that he has to address. However, his upside is higher than Will Levis. His upside is higher than CJ Stroud. His upside is probably on par with Bryce. He's that potentially talented. It's just there's no way you can say he is gonna be that. This is like I got a lottery ticket here. Now, you don't expect to win it, but there's a chance. You're telling me there's a chance? Yeah, that's the Florida kid in a nutshell. Hey, if you like this content, you go ahead, like and subscribe. We're gonna move right along to the wide receivers. This draft class is actually shaping up way better than I originally anticipated. It's going to be a good year for teams that have multiple second-round picks. I think a lot of these players are, first round talent, don't get me wrong, but there's so many of them that a lot of these guys are going to fall into that second round. And there's a lot of this talk about the Bears and what they're going to do. Honestly, they should do the double trade down, pick up all kinds of picks, because this is a really good draft for that mid-range. But I digress. The number one wide receiver, I don't think too many people argue with this. It's Quentin Johnson, TCU. He's a top 10 overall talent. He's been not the most productive, right? But 6'4", 215 pounds. He's a true number one receiver. There's always every year tons of receivers that are, slot guys or that second outside players or gimmicky players, or there's very few who are true number one receivers. And those are rare, which is one of the biggest reasons why he's number one. Now, you want a really cool slot kid, knock yourself out. But if you're looking for that AJ Green, that Michael Thomas, that in this aspect, AJ Green type player, it's not easy to find. He's one of the freakiest athletes in recent memory. He's really good at making players miss, and he's got a limited route tree. But the routes that he does know, they're very good. They're very precise. He's a big play guy. He's kind of the entire package. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect translation. He's got to learn more of a route tree. He's got to learn a little bit of spacing and the mind game that goes into the battle of corners, and how the NFL has much more talented corners for getting separation. But he's very good at getting separation in the college level. I don't think he knows enough about the routes to really take that into the NFL immediately, but he's really close. He could get there. He's really good at stacking the corner at the top of the route. It's easier to do if you're tall. He's 6'4", but it's very difficult in the NFL for a rookie to come in and be able to stack a corner. I think he can do it right away. He's got excellent body control. He has trouble blocking, some minor issues here and there, but all in all, this guy, he runs down the field, he gets open, he runs a crisp route, jumps up in the air, does 2 backflips, catches it with his ass, keeps running. It's amazing. He's the best wide receiver in the draft. Anybody who says otherwise, they don't know what they're looking at. I'll tell you that right now. But number 2, number 3, and number 4, I think are closer. You want to argue this guy's better than that guy. I'm not going to stand and say you're wrong, right? But number 2, I have Josh Downs, North Carolina. He was productive. He's 5'10", 180 pounds. He's a slot receiver. He's much like a Tyler Lockett. He's got insane acceleration, which gives him the ability to slow step, right? So he'll do something like a quick twitch, right? And then he'll run like 80% speed. So right when that corner feels confident that you were running, right, they look into the inside and he takes that 80 to 90. Like he's got really good acceleration to make him scared and then confident and then just blow him out of the water. It's all footwork. He's got weak hands. If it's a zone, if it's a soft man coverage, he's going to blow him away with just butte speed. Now, that I don't know how well he'll be able to do that in the NFL. Everybody's fast in the NFL. However, I'm really looking at his 40 times. If he's in anything above a 4.4, I think a lot of his skill set goes by the wayside. He relies on his speed a lot. It's hard to evaluate him because his highlights were manufactured. He was manufactured to get open space. In the NFL, he'll get matchups against linebackers, right? But not all that often. This is like he was there the whole time. Every highlight reel, if you look at it, he's like being covered by a 280-pound man. Like, obviously, he's going to blow him out of the water. I don't know exactly how fast he is, other than the few clips I've seen where he's outrunning corners. His routes are pro ready. He has got lots of variations. He's very good at that aspect. So when he's working in the translation in the NFL, he'll be able to play. Like day one, he'll be able to get on the field. He'll never become an outside receiver. Sorry, he's a slot guy. He might be the best slot guy in the NFL draft, and that's just because he's fearless. I think he's accepted being a slot guy. He's accepted going over the middle and just embraced it. Now, there's players like Brandon Cooks, where he's just a chicken shit, and he's a slot receiver, but he wanted to play on the outside. And he's a good player, and he did actually translate into the outside. It's just that's why he moved around 15 different teams. They're like, man, this guy would be really good in the slot. They go out, they get him, and he's like, I'm not playing the slot. It's scary. It's scary to run full speed across the middle with linebackers looking to hit you. It is. He's embraced it. And that's why he's number 2, because some of the intangibles he has, the speed, the fearless, you can't teach, right? Number 3, Jackson Smith. Jackson Smith from Ohio State. Everybody's looking at the 2021 season, 1,600 yards, right? Massive production. He's got excellent agility, really good hands, great deep threat guy, runs a very smooth route in and out of his break. He does an excellent job locating and tracking passes. He's got a very high football IQ. His route tree, his understanding, that's what's made him good. Now, that's usually something you don't see at the college level, at his ability. The only thing holding him back is he's not elite athletically. He's not someone that's gonna, blow you out of the water. He's going to find it difficult to get separation, I think, at first, because he was able to outsmart kids in college. The NFL, I think he's really close, but it might take him a little bit of time to get their style down. He's a solid pro-ready slot receiver that could play on the outside. If he plays on the outside, he's going to be an Eric Decker, just kind of sneaky. He's kind of here, and then the next thing you know, he's wide open. Now, I think that's a very, very good quality. It's a very high grade, in my opinion. I know a lot of people don't know Eric Decker's not sexy. Well, he's had a long career for a reason as kind of a slow, he's about that. He's actually bigger, but at 6'1", 200 pounds, he's not small. Right, that's his style of play. I think this is a first-round talent. And the last guy in that triple sec, I'm going to say Jordan Addison. He is an injury concern at 175 pounds. He took a step back in 2022. I think a lot of that has to do with trust. When you change teams, one of his biggest aspects is kind of when the play breaks down. Right. When the play breaks down and everybody's like scrambling, right? You have to have that camaraderie of a person to be on the same page. You're thinking this because they're thinking that. And he didn't get enough time in that locker room, I don't believe, to get that and have the quarterback think that way. He's going to throw the people he trusts, people he's seen in the locker room for years. Now, I don't know how big of a deal that is. I'm not saying, you can say it's difficult talent. You can say, whatever. He had a step back in 2022 going into the Pac-12. Okay. With that being said, there are red flags attached to his name. His ability to consistently separate at the top of the route is why he's where he is. He's a magician. He's proven to be a very high volume, high target player with great spatial awareness. A lot of these prospects in this class, they're slot receiver types, right? They're skinny, they're fast, they all have something different to bring to the table. I think this player is one of the most pro ready just because of his understanding on how to separate is so elite that I think in the NFL, he'll be able to start day one. And he's very explosive, versatile player. His ball hawking skills and everything considered remind me of a Devontae Smith. Maybe not as good as Devontae Smith was in college, but I think he can translate to the NFL faster. And that high praise is why he's in this second tier of three. Moving on, I got another group. This group is a combination of risk to reward. This is the third tier. Rice out of SMU, I have at the top of it. He's a Chris Godwin type player. He can play the slot, he can play the outside, but he needs to be in a spread offense. What I like most about this guy is his alpha mentality. He's got ball skills. He's got athleticism. He's got a very limited route tree. He can make defenders miss. He's a massive breakout potential for these reasons. It might take him a little while to transition. Maybe his first year, maybe 3/4 or half of that first year. He reminds me a little bit of Amon St. Ra. There's some things that possibly don't work and you worry about, but if he can figure them out and quickly, he's very good. He does have inflated stats a little bit from college because he ran a lot of underneath routes. But I don't think that really matters for his situation. I think he's very good. He just needs help. He needs to go to a place where there is a one alpha male wide receiver in the locker room, and he'll be amazing. You know, if Chad Ochocinco or Terrell Owens or someone like that was on the team that he goes to, he will just absorb all that like a sponge. Next is Xavier Hutchinson. I have him number 6. He's a second-round talent. He is here because of the true number 1 wide receiver designation. That is hard to find. He possesses it, so he gets a bump. He gets a bump in quality and just in value. He's not a great athlete. He has trouble with doing sharp cuts. I think that's going to be a problem because he plays stiff. He's smart, but that's carried him thus far. And I don't know how his IQ is higher than most, but it'll be average in the NFL. So he's going to need something other than that to carry him forward. If successful, if he can get those things, which is a large if. This is a bust type candidate here. He could very well come in and be a nothing. But if he can do it, you're talking Michael Thomas. That's not out of the reach of normal. So that's why he's here. Number 7, I'm going to put Zay Flowers here. And a lot of people are going to be upset. Zay Flowers has fallen to 7, Boston College. He's 5'11", 170 pounds. He's a slot receiver. He can play on the outside if it's in a bunch formation. This is your end around, your jet sweep, this is your gimmicky like player. He's not gonna be a high volume guy. He's gonna have 3-4 good shots a game and hope he does it. And in the NFL, that means something, especially if you're explosive. He's going to probably play, maybe punt return, kick return type stuff. His hands are not terrible, but they're not his strong point. He has talent. He reminds me of Brandon Cooks. He has an elite balance near sidelines. He's extremely dangerous in open field. They're going to manufacture ways to get him the ball in open space. He's fun to watch, right? But that's why he's probably a low-end second-round pick. Third round, probably. Just because of usage. Really close to him, and this last person in this tier, right, is Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee. He's a speedster. He's got a very limited route. The reason he's here and his thing that brings to the table is he can beat press coverage. Now, it's very hard for a little guy, a speedster guy, to beat press coverage. He does it. He does it very well, which is kind of impressive. The routes utilized are very crisp, and he's got profound tracking of the ball. He's a support receiver. He's probably going to struggle at the next level. He could play on the outside. He might struggle with faster corners who can keep up with his quickness. I feel like he's a Will Fuller. It feels right. I think he can outperform Will Fuller's career, but the reason that Will Fuller keeps coming up is that's kind of his thing. He was like a 2-trick pony. He was really good at it, but that's what he was, and he got hurt a lot because he had to floor it. He got in a Mustang and he had to floor it, and it blew some seals every once in a while, and he had to go get it fixed. So that's why I have him here. All right, my last two are in this last tier. Now, this last tier are third round, mid third round, maybe even late third round is where they're going to go, or where I think they're probably going to go. But both of these players, these are your steals, right? These are your Florida kid quarterback, right? The potential is through the roof. Keyshawn Boot, LSU. He's probably my favorite wide receiver. I might be a little biased as a caveat. He's a first-round talent with excellent hands, perfect feet, great size, great speed, good at locating and tracking deep balls. He's explosive. He's got a natural body. He's solid across the spectrum. And you look at his stats, and they're like, there's nothing spectacular here. Well, in 2021, in just 6 games, he had a leg injury. He had a leg injury that was severe. It was the reason for the slow start for 2022. So after 6 games in 2021, he had this leg injury, and he didn't come back until he probably played half of 2022, just psychologically afraid of that leg. I want to watch him in the combine. This is the guy you want to watch in the combine, because ultimately, if he can return from this devastating leg injury to where mentally he's not even thinking about it, he's fully confident, and he's planting that foot just into the ground, because that's what made him really good. His ability to just cut, and you have to have confidence when you slam that foot into the ground. He could be the biggest steal as the wide receiver. This is Golden Tate level talent that you can get late in the third round. So keep an eye on this kid. It's all about how he runs. If he runs smooth and he runs confident, I would say this is a green light to get this kid. Moving on to the last guy that I have to talk about is Michael Wilson from Stanford. Played 5 years. Played 5 years. He as a freshman, redshirted freshman. He played in 10 games. A sophomore, he's played in 12 games. Junior 4, senior 6. This guy can't stay healthy. His production as an 18-year-old was 14 catches. His production as a 19-year-old, 56 catches. He's 22, probably going to be, and I don't know for sure, but he's going to be 23, really close to the start of the season. And he's only played in 14 games since he was 19. That's a lot of time to miss. It's really unfortunate little things, nothing super severe. It's just we don't know who this guy really is. We saw this massive potential as a young kid coming out of high school. And then just, I got paper cut. And he's just done. He's done. He's a first round player if he can stay healthy. He's so raw at this point that even if he gets drafted and he has that, he's not going to translate immediately. He's going to need some time. He reminds me, though, of a kind of a situation of Chase Claypool, except he's quicker and he's smoother. He's not as big, right? He's a little more quick and smooth. Chase Claypool, just everybody thought was raw because he came from Notre Dame and he just didn't have a lot of opportunities, right? And then the combine came and they're like, okay, he's talent, like we know he's fast. And then the pro days came and then the senior and they were like, wow, he looks like he has potential. And then they drafted him. I think something similar could be happened to Michael Wilson. I think they're going to watch him, they're going to see, and he's either going to be fluid or not. He's either going to go in the third round or he's going to fall and he might not have an opportunity. And it's just because of injuries. It's kind of sad, but it is what it is. And once again, if you like this content, if you want to be able to sit there and look at the numbers and read everything, you can go to the website at thedud.com. These articles are up and about. Like and subscribe. We're going to hit running backs here. This is a very good class for running backs. Very good class for running backs. Maybe not too much like exciting, insane talent that's going to blow you out of the water, but a whole bunch of start-worthy bell cow type running backs. Now, I think I'm just going to go past some of the people that just, everybody has been goo-goo over because it's pretty much a no-brainer. BR from Texas, he's the best one. It's not even close. He's a thicker, more durable version of Christian McCaffrey. And that's high praise because he's a rare talent. He forces second level players to commit so early because he's so clean at switching gaps that he creates gaps. The best way I can explain it is he doesn't need vision. He's like Moses. He's runs through the line. Here's the hole. He makes people commit because he's coming 100 miles an hour. And then this guy's like, oh man, so he's crashing in. And guess what? He just made himself a new hole. He just bounces over here. Boom, he's gone. Like everywhere he goes, there's nobody there because they all have to commit so early at where he's going that one little sidestep or even just the hesitant head and everybody's falling over. It's the only thing I've ever saw was Christian McCaffrey when he did this, and I said he was the best running back in the draft class over Saquon Barkley, and everybody got mad at me. And he's too small. Okay, maybe. This guy's not. He's 220 pounds. So we don't need to talk about him too much. He's forced 104 missed tackles this season. He's had a 39% career forced missed tackle rate. 39% of the time, the person trying to tackle him missed. Now, in this statistic, a missed tackle is considered anything that doesn't bring him down 2 steps after last contact. So maybe they get a hand on him, but a lot of these people don't even get that. He's by far the best. I've spent more time on him than necessary. So moving on. This is where everybody starts really like saying, "Oh, I like this guy and I like that guy." And to be honest, it's mostly about style, preference, bias. There's a lot of these guys. You could say, "Oh, I don't think that guy's 2 and that guy's 4," and a lot of these guys you can say that about. They're pretty similar. In my ranking, I have Zach Cabernet. He's AJ Dillon, right? Big-bodied guy. He's not going to be the top of any category, but he's fearless. Doesn't shy away from contact. He has outstanding balance. He's hard to bring down. He's got the benefit of running really low. He gets really low, and that makes it hard. He can make people miss without breakaway speed. But he's got just enough speed to where if he's out there, he can go to the house. He's got good vision. He's a little bit hesitant. He can catch, but I don't expect him to be like this catch-it guy. Now, players like this, okay, you're going to watch the combine, you're going to see stuff. When it comes to all players like this, the statistic that you need to look at, which translates to a 91% accuracy rating, is the speed score. Players with this highest score are good. They're successful, okay? Now, NFL will have a speed score of around 100. Anything under 100 in the speed score for this type of player, we're not talking about your Curtis Martins, your Edwin James, right? We're talking about this type of player. Your Derrick Henry, your Ezekiel Elliott, your Jonathan Taylor. Those 3 guys were over 110. The higher the speed score, the more likely this guy's going to be a monster. Chubb, high speed score. If I remember correctly, Chubb was a 112. Jonathan Taylor was a 118. Zeke was a 109. Long story short, if you're over 100, you are start worthy. The higher you are, the better you're going to be statistically throughout since the beginning of time, going all the way back to Super Bowl 1 anyway. This has been accurate. And what you do is you take the weight, multiply that by 200. Take that number, you put it over here. You take their 40 time and you take it to the 4th power. Okay? Then you divide those 2 numbers. That's the speed score. That analytics stat will tell you everything you need to know about these players. That being said, this is one of those guys that I would take and I will put it in speed score, and that's how I'm going to grade a lot of these people, and that's how I'm going to do these mock drafts. Because that stat's so powerful that it was the first analytic that was adopted in the NFL. It was the original one that was done, and I believe it was started in the early 90s. I could be wrong about that. But that's what basically got analytics kind of in the door of the NFL, because the NFL was really reluctant for a long time, and most teams didn't really care. There's still, I think, a team or two that doesn't really have a department for analytics, but every team has this one. Jahmyr Gibbs, Alabama, he's the number 3. He reminds me of Jamal Charles, which is high praise. He's probably the best pass catcher in this class. He can go out wide as a wide receiver. He's very elusive, very agile, easy to make people miss. He's fast. He can take those opportunities, no problem. He's a capable rusher, but will probably be best as a 3rd down pass catcher in some sort of a committee. His jump cut gaps are explosive, but they're not reliable. I think he could be somewhere like Jamal Charles, just without the bell cow mentality. I think he's very good, but he's probably gonna split work. Kind of reminds me of Etienne, and maybe they can make him the feature back, right? I just think it would be best if he was in a committee as the third down player. Sean Tucker, Syracuse. He handles contact really well for 200 pounds. He's very explosive. He can outrun a defense. He likes to bounce it outside way too often. He just really loses faith in his offensive line. And I think that's because he played at Syracuse, right? Like, Syracuse isn't the greatest. I think as he goes into the NFL, maybe that is limited. That goes away. But that's one of the worst qualities he has, is he bounces at the outside. Yeah, it could work out. And, in college, it does more often than the NFL. But they'll tell you real fast, don't you fucking lose 3 yards trying to get 5. Right? I don't expect him to be focus of the passing game due to his hands being average. But he has trouble with pass protection. I think that's going to really limit him. He needs to figure that out. He reminds me of a Chris Johnson without the top end speed and the skills in the receiving game. He's a consistent runner. He get chunk plays. So I think he's very specific skill set will fit in the NFL, but he's not right for everybody. Moving on, we got Tank Bigsby, Auburn. He's like Josh Jacobs. This is another guy you want the speed score on. He's going to be a bell cow. He's been producing for Auburn for 3 years. 2020, he had 800 yards. 2021, he had almost 1,100 yards. 2022, he had 970 yards. Like, he's got more catching this last season than the other two combined. But it's kind of like it reminds me of Jonathan Taylor, right? He wasn't known for catching. And then it was like a really nice surprise. Like, oh, he can do that. It's kind of that way. Like, he could go either way here. There's not enough film to say he's a good catcher, but there's nothing really like giant red flag saying he can't be that. Very physical player. He can play all 3 downs. I think he could be a complete back. Which bell cows are, they're hard to find. So I think Josh Jacobs is a good evaluation for him. The higher his speed score, the better he's going to be. If I had to guess, not knowing anything, I would say he's probably right at 100, 102, somewhere around there. All right, Devon Acne, the Spider in Texas A&M. This is Leon Washington. If, any of you kids are older than, 20 here, Leon Washington is an explosive running back. He wanted it. They gave it to him, and he shattered his femur. That's kind of exactly what I think this kid is. He's a Leon Washington. He's going to carve up defenders on a one-on-one basis. He's going to be very shifty. He's got top-end speed, Tyreek Cohen type. If he could do what Leon couldn't do, I think he's Alvin Kamara. But we got to see that toughness. And I don't care how tough you are, you shatter your femur, you're not doing much. He's just a little bit undersized. Great punt returner, great kick returner, great third down back, great gimmicky, smoke and mirrors player. I don't think anybody's going to give him the opportunity of being a feature back for a lot of the reasons I just said. Moving on. Kenny McIntosh. He reminds me of Sean Green. This guy is another guy you want the speed score with. He could be a bell cow, all that jazz. His catches are fine, but it's just an extension of the run game. He's a fall forward type guy. Sean Green had a good career. I think he could have that type of career, but probably he's going to be drafted to be a backup, drafted to maybe play tough fullback situations. I'm not sure, but I think he's very capable of being a bell cow. Zach Evans, Ole Miss. He's a wild card. This is my wild card of the running backs, right? His abilities and his skills are profound. He struggles at the ability to block, which is problem. But he's a situational backup his entire career. That's what I kind of envisioned him, which is terrible. I know. But he could learn to block. He's going to be on the field a lot more because he's going to be in type of those situations. I could very well see him playing with the statistics of like this last season, Najee Harris. I honestly can't. It's just no one's going to give him that opportunity if he can't protect the quarterback. And that kind of really is important. And he's so bad at it that drafting this player is a project right there by itself. There's some pretty good wide receiving tight ends in this class. Michael Mayer, Notre Dame, he's the best. 6'4", 265. He reminds me of Mark Andrews. He's got burst off the snap. But Mark Andrews is successful the same reason he's going to be successful. His mental, just cut off his legs, cut off his arms, lay him on the ground. So you need to go 16 miles. So say, okay, coach, and start rolling. And he'll get there. That's what made him good. That's what makes this guy good. He's got a natural ability to release. He has soft hands. He'll give you confidence. He will transition to the next level. Tight ends take a year. They take a little bit longer than most positions in fantasy to translate to the NFL. He's got lack of breakaway speed, but he's a tight end, right? Not a lot of successful tight ends have this breakaway speed because they can get open. They're big-bodied. He can big body. He can get open. He'll play immediately because of all the things I just said were about his receiving skills. Okay, now understand he's at the best blocking in the class. This is the guy. He's maybe not the greatest wide receiver. He's not going to be Travis Kelce, right? But he can do everything, which means he's going to be on the field for everything, which means the opportunities are there. This is the guy that you would want on our fantasy league. With confidence, you could probably draft him. Maybe not as high as, the bust from last couple of years. Anyway, Dalton Utah. He's a Dustin Keller, right? 6'4", 240 pounds, soft hands, runs really good routes. He can't block for shit, but he can get away from linebackers. He's the most pro-ready receiving tight end. Sam Laporta, Iowa. 6'4", 249 pounds. He's another prospect. He's primarily receiver with limited blocking ability. He reminds me of Tyler Higbee, right? So he's got a solid understanding of a full route tree. He includes wide receiver routes, so he could play on the outside as well. But at 249 pounds, you should be able to block. His blocking is okay. Last up, we have Luke Musgrave, Oregon State. He's average blocker. He's an adequate route runner. He's inexperienced. He's only been on the field for 300 snaps. He's raw. But he's 6'6", 250 pounds. He's a monster. Right? Reminds me of like Mo Ali Cox. His ability to break out, I think, is all about his athleticism, which he has. This guy is very good. Fluid. Smooth. He's like a salsa dancer. If he can get there, if he can put this shit together, because he is so raw, he's only played like 10, 16, 18, 20 games total since he was 17. He could be a Travis Kelce. So there you have it, folks. Those are the people you should be paying attention to in this combine. You like this content? Like, subscribe, make fun of me in the comments. I don't care. Peace. Hey, Al. Have you heard of the duh.com?
No, what is it?
Well, the duh.com is totally transforming the fantasy sports world. It's bringing digital NFTs to all sorts of sports, from football to golf, baseball to NASCAR.
That sounds pretty cool. What makes them different from other NFT projects?
Unlike other projects, they're not just selling images. They're providing a service that uses the NFT as a key. These smart contracts track data in a trustless system. You hold on to your own assets, and they're fully liquid.
Can you trade them?
You can trade them at any time. You get to play fantasy without some sort of lottery system or resetting each week. You're playing against yourself, and if you're right, you win. If you got an NFT, you're in it for the long haul, not just a week or a year, but that player's entire career.
That sounds like a great way to play. What else does Duh Sports offer?
On top of the fantastic digital NFT experience, the duh.com also provides tons of helpful content for guidance in fantasy sports just in general. They have articles about rookies, analytics and stats, plus team salary cap situations, schemes, player fits, even projections. This analysis has been proven to be more accurate than the mainstream media. There's also an algorithm that picks against the spread. And last season in the NFL, the accuracy was up to 86%.
That's all for free?
Yeah, totally free. No ads either. So why not just check it out and give their game a try?
Anything else in the works?
Over the next 36 months, they're going to roll out all kinds of sports.
Thanks for watching. Goodbye.